public hearing into the Titan submersible disaster has revealed the final text messages sent by those on board as they headed towards the wreck of the Titanic.
They plunged into the ocean's depths, seeking wonders in the abyss. But what they found was a fate more terrifying than any myth: the Titan submersible.
Titan began its dive at 9:14 in the morning local time. At 9:18, there was a communications check. After that, comms were patchy.
You've seen the news reports, the somber pronouncements, the expressions of grief. But the truth, entombed in the ocean's silence, is far more sinister than you could ever conceive. Get ready to explore a tale of reckless ambition, unfathomable depths, and a cover-up that reaches the highest corridors of power. This is the saga of the Titan sub-disaster, and it's more appalling than you ever dared to believe. A dive into tragedy. The Titan submersible disaster was one of the most harrowing tragedies in recent memory, leaving an indelible mark on the world of exploration. On June 18, 2023, 5 individuals set out on what was supposed to be an extraordinary voyage to the wreckage of the Titanic, nestled over 12,000 feet below the North Atlantic Ocean. This journey, hailed as an adventurous dive into the deep, quickly turned into a nightmare. Final text messages exchanged between the passengers, including the haunting phrase, "all good here," hinted at the initial optimism of the crew before everything took a catastrophic turn. Within hours, the submersible imploded under the immense pressure of the ocean, claiming all 5 lives on board and raising questions that remain unanswered. OceanGate, the company behind the Titan submersible, had prided itself on offering unique deep-sea experiences to those with a passion for exploration. This particular mission to the Titanic wreck was meant to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, combining history and adventure in a setting few could ever imagine visiting. For the crew and passengers, it was more than a simple dive. It was a chance to be part of a momentous journey. Among the passengers were accomplished individuals, including a billionaire adventurer, who were eager to see one of the most iconic shipwrecks in history. But the promise of wonder turned into a fatal gamble that shook the world. The tragedy is itself a series of events punctuated by suddenness and beyond belief devastation of the calamity. Initial reports indicated that everything was running smoothly on a dive carried out under routine communications with its surface vessel. But suddenly, at around 3,241 meters deep, one last message came in from the submersible. In part, it referred to a technical adjustment. A few moments later, the communications ceased, leaving the surface crew in an anxious suspense. It was unknown to them that the Titan had already collapsed under the heavy underwater pressure and imploded in milliseconds. The loss was so swift, leading experts to conclude that the passengers would not have had time to understand much of what was happening. This tragic accident did not just kill people, it brought a severe public glare on the procedures and decisions that led to the unfortunate dive. OceanGate marketed the Titan as safe, with CEO Stockton Rush assuring that it posed minimal risk. In the aftermath, a chilling narrative began to emerge, that of ignored warnings, untested technology, and eagerness to push the envelope at safety's expense. As the world mourned the 5 lost adventurers, it also began to question how choices turned daring dreams into sobering cautionary tales. Before the implosion, there was a dream, one that came with a dangerous price. OceanGate's vision and ambition. Founded in 2009 by Stockton Rush and Guillermo Cernlein, OceanGate aimed to revolutionize deep-sea exploration by making it accessible to those with a thirst for adventure and the means to finance it. The company's vision was to provide unprecedented access to the ocean's uncharted depths, offering clients a rare opportunity to experience the mysteries of the underwater world. Stockton Rush, the face of the company, was a visionary who believed in pushing boundaries to open the deep seas to civilians. This pioneering approach sought to merge cutting-edge technology with the allure of exploration, setting OceanGate apart in an industry long dominated by scientific and military operations. From its inception, OceanGate positioned itself as a trailblazer in underwater tourism, crafting experiences that were as exclusive as they were ambitious. The company offered expeditions to iconic sites like shipwrecks and deep-sea ecosystems, which most people could only dream of visiting. Using submersibles like the Cyclops and later the Titan, OceanGate attracted thrill seekers, researchers, and wealthy clients who yearned for adventure beneath the waves. The allure of diving to the Titanic wreck, one of the most famous and mysterious sights in maritime history, became the crown jewel of OceanGate's offerings, drawing global attention and admiration for the company's boldness. But Stockton Rush was not content with merely deep-water outings. He saw OceanGate as a vehicle for wrenching the good name of global media into underwater exploration as a spectacle capable of inspiration and education. To him, it was rather impertinent to the whole industry, which he often decried as being overly circumspect and closed to innovation. Challenge orchestration status on the rights of deep-sea exploration. Rush believed there was risk attached before deep-sea exploration could go forward, a belief that caught and shaped many of OceanGate's practices around that side of the industry. While all these gained recognition for the company, concerns have been growing with experts over the safety and feasibility of its means. As OceanGate proliferated, so it was branded the company at the cutting edge of what was possible. Rush made no effort to hide his charisma, luring investors and clients from the most upfront foyer, thus shielding the reputation of the company as a pioneer in deep-sea exploration. However, this sort of persistent, unreasonable ambition came at the highest possible price. Foundational cracks began to emerge at OceanGate as issues related to safety measures, reliability of equipment, and lack of transparency in operations came to the public eye. What had indeed been a revolutionary vision in underwater exploration was rapidly becoming blurred in doubt as to whether the company was matching its ambition with its accountability to safety in its passengers. The Voyage to Titanic. The journey to explore the Titanic wreck in 2023 was more than just another mission for OceanGate. It was marketed as an exclusive and groundbreaking experience. As bookings opened for the expedition, anticipation grew among those who could afford the steep price tag of $250,000 per seat. Stockton Rush, OceanGate's CEO, personally reached out to potential clients, even offering discounted rates to secure participants. The voyage promised participants a front-row seat to history, allowing them to descend to the ocean floor and witness the remains of the legendary shipwreck. For the 5 passengers who ultimately boarded, it was a chance to become part of an elite group of explorers. However, not everyone was convinced of the mission's safety. Businessman Jay Bloom and his son were among the potential participants invited by Rush. Despite a significant discount on the ticket price, Bloom declined the offer, citing safety concerns that he could not overlook. His decision proved prescient. Bloom's skepticism highlighted a broader unease surrounding the Titan submersible, which had faced criticism for its unconventional design and lack of regulatory oversight. The looming doubts surrounding the voyage were a stark contrast to the excitement building among those who chose to go. On June 16, 2023, the operation, dubbed Dive 88, commenced. The historical date had to be delayed due to poor weather conditions, and the Titan submersible and crew set sail from St. John's, Newfoundland, on board the Polar Prince, a Canadian-flagged research vessel. Among those on board the voyage was British billionaire and adventurer Hamish Harding, who took to social media with the latest updates on the developments. In his post, Harding described the dive as historic in the harsh winter conditions, indicative of the fact that it was likely to be the only manned dive to the Titanic this year. His excitement and optimism were truly inspiring for the expedition, although no one had foreseen the tragedy that awaited. Actual travel to the wreck site was not without danger, despite all the meticulous planning. On the morning of June 18th, when the Titan submersible readied itself for descent, outwardly, things were buzzing with everyone in high spirits, including routine checks that indicated that everything was just right. Beneath the surface, however, loomed a lineup of issues yet to be exposed. For the construction itself, and the absence of exhaustive testing over several years, Titan had raised eyebrows within the industry long before. The course of the mission at best cast ominous shadows as to the future consequences that would take place on the crew by warnings long ignored. The once thrilling adventure soon became a sordid tale, warning of ambition colliding with the harsh reality of deep ocean conditions. Moments before the catastrophe. As the Titan submersible began its descent into the North Atlantic on June 18, 2023, everything seemed to be progressing as planned. The dive started early that morning, with the vessel securely loaded onto its launch platform and its crew of 5 excited to embark on the journey of a lifetime. The submersible disengaged from the platform at approximately 9:18 a.m., marking the start of its much-anticipated expedition to explore the wreck of the Titanic. Regular text updates were transmitted back to the Polar Prince, the surface vessel, providing reassurance that the operation was proceeding smoothly. For the first hour and a half, the team on the surface had no indication of any impending danger. Communication between the Titan and the Polar Prince continued at regular intervals, with text messages and acoustic pings ensuring that the connection remained intact. At a depth of approximately 2,274 meters, the submersible sent a simple yet reassuring message: "All good here." This brief update gave the surface crew no reason to suspect anything was amiss. However, as the Titan descended deeper, it reached depths where the immense pressure of the ocean became increasingly unforgiving. The passengers, unaware of the forces surrounding them, remained focused on their historic mission, likely filled with anticipation. Trouble was signaled at 10:47 a.m. when the Titan sent its last cryptic message, "dropped 2 watts." The expression might refer to ballast weight release, a standard practice to manage buoyancy at deep-sea dives. Barely seconds later, all communication cut dead. It threw the crew members aboard the Polar Prince into mighty ripples of anxiety. By this stage, Titan was at an approximate depth of about 3,341 meters, where pressures go beyond what the human body or ill-designed equipment can survive. The eerie silence that would soon follow would signal to wind what had happened when the unthinkable occurred. The Titanic, however, had succumbed to the effects of that terrible pressure, and in an instant vanished within fractions of a second from the senses of those fine folks on top. Experts have since assessed that the implosion occurred so fast, within milliseconds, that the passengers might have not understood fully what was transpiring. The unfortunate communication breaking marks the end of a journey that, almost certainly, had all sublime features, but ended in catastrophe. For most in the Polar Prince, frantic hours of waiting became ash and charcoal in the realization that the mission was indeed to be a disaster. The last minutes before disaster, characterized by ordinary updates and sober procedures, emphasized the abrupt and soul-crushing nature of this tragedy. The aftermath. In the wake of the Titan submersible's disappearance, a massive search and rescue operation was launched to locate the vessel and its passengers. The US Coast Guard, Canadian Coast Guard, and US Navy immediately mobilized their resources, determined to find the missing crew before their breathable air supply ran out. The surface team on the Polar Prince remained hopeful, knowing the Titan was equipped with enough oxygen for 96 hours. However, as hours turned into days, the grim reality began to set in. By June 22, 2023, a debris field near the Titanic wreck was discovered, confirming the worst fears. The Titan had imploded, leaving no survivors. The search effort was one of the most complex in recent history, involving advanced technologies and international cooperation. Aircraft from the Royal Canadian Air Force and US Air National Guard scoured the area from above, while ships equipped with sonar and remotely operated underwater vehicles, ROVs, explored the depths. Despite initial setbacks caused by poor weather conditions, the search continued relentlessly. The debris field found near the Titanic provided a tragic answer to the mystery of the missing submersible, but left behind more questions about what had gone wrong. Intensive investigative work began at the site when debris and human remains were found. Engineers and other experts began thorough analysis of the recovered parts to determine the cause of the catastrophic failure. Simulation of implosion has shown that the process takes less than a second, a time so short as not to allow the passengers to guess their fate. A DNA confirmation of victims was confirmed to the families, bringing a painful closure. The findings did provide knowledge about the accident, as well as evidence of the type of pressure involved in the oceans, more so what potential weaknesses in the submersible design. The investigation raised shocking specifics about the ignored warnings for years heralding the Blight event. Testimonies from former OceanGate employees and independent experts referred to Titan's design flaws, insufficient testing, and a dearth of regulatory oversight. Questions have now swayed towards the propriety of leadership by Stockton Rush and his inclination for innovation over safety. The one-on-one discovery about the debris answers about the sub, but it does emphasize the human and technical implications that have led to this avoidable disaster. A continued legacy of the Titan tragedy continues to remind us about extensive risks involved in exploring the boundaries of safety. You might want to sit down. What comes next shows just how preventable this was. Warning signs ignored. The Titan submersible tragedy was not a sudden or unforeseeable event. It was the culmination of years of ignored warnings and unheeded expert advice. As far back as 2018, industry professionals had expressed serious concerns about the design and safety protocols of the Titan. In a formal letter signed by several experts, Stockton Rush, OceanGate's CEO, was urged to reconsider the submersible's experimental approach. The letter emphasized the lack of third-party certification and testing for the Titan, warning that these omissions could lead to catastrophic consequences. Unfortunately, these grave concerns were dismissed by Rush, who believed stringent regulations stifled innovation. One of the most glaring warning signs was the use of carbon fiber in the Titan's hull. While innovative, this material choice was highly unconventional for deep-sea exploration, where solid steel or pure titanium are the industry standard. OceanGate had also partnered with Hydrospace, a company that designed the Titan's window. But the window was specifically noted as unfit for extreme depths without further testing. Despite this, Rush moved forward, confident in his design and dismissive of those who doubted its safety. This pattern of disregarding industry norms and expert input became a defining feature of OceanGate's operations. Members of the old OceanGate were the ones who raised alarms after their dismissal at this famed company. Former operations director David Lockridge was concerned about Titan's ability to hold pressure when submerged deepest under the ocean. His demand for rigorous testing met with resistance, leading to his termination from the company. Lockridge later recounted several incidents of dives done before, all reflecting on the weaknesses of the submarine, including structural and communication failures. These tags showed a figure of a religious organization willing to cut corners in the adventurous quest. The warnings to passengers continued. Those who ride the Titan must waive a form declaring that the vessel is experimental, not certified by any regulatory body. Former passengers and journalists have noted previous communication dropouts on dives and have expressed concern with the strange design of the submersible. Stockton Rush himself confessed in interviews that he had broken the industry's rules just to push exploration. In retrospect, and unfortunately, all these warnings have neither been paid heed to nor considered as barriers in the process. The Titan event is an eye-opener to the consequences of ambition overtaking caution, that is, innovation pursued at the cost of safety. Stockton Rush's reckless pursuit of innovation. Stockton Rush, the visionary CEO of OceanGate, was a man who thrived on challenging the status quo. He believed that the field of deep-sea exploration was hampered by overly rigid safety protocols and an aversion to risk. His philosophy centered on pushing technological boundaries and introducing bold innovations to make the depths of the ocean accessible to more people. However, Rush's determination to defy convention often came at a high cost. His decision to use experimental materials and unconventional designs for the Titan submersible reflected a relentless ambition to revolutionize the industry, but ultimately raised serious safety concerns. One of Rush's most controversial choices was the use of carbon fiber for the Titan's hull. This material was lightweight and cost-effective, but its ability to withstand the crushing pressures of the deep sea was unproven. Experts had warned that carbon fiber might degrade over time under extreme conditions, but Rush dismissed these concerns as overcautious. He even stated in interviews that following traditional safety standards stifled innovation. This mindset led to decisions that prioritized cutting-edge experimentation over the proven reliability of industry-standard materials like solid steel or titanium. Rush's attitude is even more questionable about safety regulations. He has vehemently denounced all certification procedures within the maritime industry for being nothing more than unnecessary hindrances to development. For this very reason, Titan was neither subjected to independent testing nor third-party approval before releasing it into the ocean. This clearly allowed OceanGate to have a neat escape from having to answer to and justify any regulatory authority. Yet at the same time, it implied staying away from all rigorous assessments that could have discovered gross faults. Actually, in 2021, Rush confessed to breaking rules in developing the Titan, arguing it was meant to speed up exploration. Such an attitudinal perspective towards safety was nothing but an infertility field to tragedy. Rush remained obstinate in his belief that risk was part of the business in innovation, notwithstanding all criticisms. Some circles praised him as being a maverick of sorts. At the same time, he alienated the experts in the field who saw his methods as reckless. The pulsating narrative of tragedy is stamped on the year 2023 at the implosion of Titan. This, as it was tragic, demonstrated how close and cavalier those Rush's methods were to danger. At the same time, it proved highly visionary, albeit at an ultimate cost. The ultimate sacrifice was the loss of his life and 4 others. Stockton Rush's unhinged search for innovation, sans caution or oversight, serves to remind ambivalence. The consequences of negligence. The Titan submersible disaster was not an isolated incident, but the result of a pattern of negligence that had plagued OceanGate for years. Despite the advanced technology and bold ambitions that defined the company, its operations were marred by a disregard for basic safety practices and industry norms. From the design of the submersible to its unregulated testing, the decisions made by Stockton Rush and his team set the stage for a preventable tragedy. The warnings from industry experts, employees, and even past passengers were clear, yet they were repeatedly ignored in favor of pushing the limits of innovation. One of the most alarming aspects of OceanGate's operations was the consistent dismissal of expert advice. The 2018 letter from industry professionals, signed by multiple authorities in deep-sea exploration, highlighted critical concerns about the Titan's design and lack of certification. They warned that the company's experimental approach could lead to catastrophic failure, yet these concerns were brushed aside. Stockton Rush, confident in his vision, believed that traditional safety standards stifled progress, a stance that ultimately cost him and others their lives. The lack of accountability and oversight allowed these warnings to go unheeded, creating a dangerous environment for both passengers and crew. Such negligence has resulted not only in technical defaults, but also in the experience of the Titan touch by its erstwhile passengers and journalists. Some of these miscreants, including those who experienced previous dives, complained of voice failure and mechanical malfunction. Though these were non-fatal incidents, they should have called for a complete overhaul of the submersible's design and safety protocols. All of it was, however, treated as a minor setback and dismissed as an innovation cost. Such a culture of denial and complacency has profoundly undermined trust and left out critical vulnerabilities that led to the catastrophe of 2023. Titan serves as a calm reminder of the tolls that negligence can exact in high-risk ventures. Innovation, however vital it is to the furthering of exploration, must invariably be checked by responsibility and sound safety practices. The legacy of 5 people, one of whom is Stockton Rush, will always be a sobering reminder of the price paid when ambition clouds prudence. The tale of the Titan is not one of technology failing, but human failure, allowed through avoidable error and unheeded warnings. Additionally, it carries a clear warning message to the industry about the need to adopt a better balance between innovation and the safety of those who dare to venture into the unknown. What could have been done differently? The tragic loss of the Titan submersible highlights several critical steps that could have been taken to prevent the disaster. First and foremost, adherence to established safety and industry standards was glaringly absent. OceanGate's decision to bypass third-party certification for the Titan, citing cost and time constraints, proved to be a fatal error. Regulatory bodies and independent experts are in place to ensure that vessels can withstand the extreme pressures of the deep sea. If the Titan had undergone rigorous testing and approval, its vulnerabilities might have been identified and addressed before it ever reached the water. Another key failure was OceanGate's reliance on experimental materials like carbon fiber, without conducting long-term studies on their performance under extreme conditions. While innovation is vital to pushing the boundaries of exploration, it must be coupled with thorough research and testing. The use of unproven materials created inherent risks that were amplified at the depths the Titan was designed to explore. A more cautious approach, utilizing materials with a proven track record like steel or titanium, would have significantly enhanced the vessel's safety and reliability. Increased internal controls and openness might just as well have made a difference. Dismissing former Titan employees and experts alike who raised safety concerns was beyond silence. Such a culture, in which safety concerns are admitted and addressed, is indeed critical for risk industries. Had OceanGate promoted a culture of listening to dissenters and encouraged investigation of past failures, perhaps many of the submersible's challenges would have been resolved. Instead, the organization's culture of pushing forward at all costs left no room for the kind of introspection that might have saved lives. Finally, better communication and preparedness during the dive could have changed the outcome. The Titan lacked acoustic beacons and other standard safety features that could have aided in its recovery if something went wrong. Furthermore, a more robust emergency plan, including a system to monitor structural integrity in real time, might have detected early warning signs of failure. While deep-sea exploration will always have its inherent dangers, the tragedy of the Titan serves as an unfortunate reminder. With proper precautions and rigorous testing, as well as a commitment to safety, the tragedy could have been avoided. These are not simply technical guidelines for future voyages, but ethical imperatives. Another aspect that could have avoided this disaster is that it would have had a more comprehensive and transparent risk assessment. Before attempting such a mission involving high risks, detailed evaluation should be done about all possible failure points, both technical and procedural, and made known to all appropriate stakeholders. Equipment should undergo stress testing under simulated conditions and contingency plans for worst-case scenarios developed, with protocols established for clear emergency response. In doing this, OceanGate would have conducted an exhaustive risk analysis well understood and accepted by all, building a safer vessel, but with greater confidence of the passengers and crew. A risk management strategy would have pointed out those gaps, which ultimately brought about the doom of Titan. If you're already stunned, the final chapter uncovers the true cost of recklessness. The price of ambition. The Titan submersible disaster left behind a legacy that is both tragic and instructive, serving as a powerful reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition. While OceanGate's mission to democratize deep-sea exploration was bold and visionary, the company's failure to prioritize safety over speed ultimately overshadowed its achievements. The lives lost in the tragedy, including adventurers and innovators, underscore the profound human cost of negligence. As the world reflects on the events leading up to the disaster, the story of the Titan has become a cautionary tale for industries pushing the boundaries of technology and exploration. One of the most significant lessons from this tragedy is the need to strike a balance between innovation and responsibility. Stockton Rush's vision of revolutionizing underwater exploration came with undeniable promise, but his dismissal of safety standards and expert warnings proved catastrophic. This disregard for established norms highlights the importance of accountability and regulation, even in industries that thrive on challenging conventions. The Titan disaster reminds us that progress must not come at the expense of human lives, and that innovation must always be tempered by prudence. A global conversation on the ethics and practices of extreme exploration has been triggered by the tragedy. Regulatory gaps, liability questions by private firms, and acceptable risks have become center-stage debates. For every explorer, engineer, and entrepreneur, Titan is a wake-up call to rethink everything they know about high-risk ventures: transparency, testing that does not take a whole lot of torture, advance notice of dissent, especially in life-and-death endeavors. As we see it now, Titan's wreck has a future of caution and introspection. The ambition to go to new, uncharted lands will not die with time. But this despairing thing remains as a reminder of the high price of ignoring some minimum safety principles. Those industries and people face challenges to create a culture that allows innovation and safety to take place together. The Titan disaster reminds us that the lessons of history must be learned to prevent similar tragedies in the future, to ensure future endeavors are scrupulously undertaken with better care and respect for what is unknown. The Titan catastrophe accentuates the essence of listening to and acting on the advice of experts in the high-stakes sectors. A lot of the warnings on the design, materials, and absence of compliance of Titan with regulations were given by way of many failed professionals who understand the risks involved. Disregarding these voices risks lives and damages the speaking trust for exploration. Dissonance and accountability could have prevented this from happening. The story of the Titan glorifies working together between the dreamer and the expert, so high above that ambition would not outpace the safety nets that are supposed to protect human life. Thanks for exploring this tragic tale with us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories of ambition and caution. Click the next video on your screen to continue the journey.